Now speak to Omar Baddar, who's a political analyst. He's joining us from Washington, D.C. Omar Baddar, thanks for your time. So for Netanyahu, has anything changed? Any indication that he will, in turn, respond positively to Hamas's response?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like much has changed on the Israeli side so far. I mean, we should be clear about the fact that the primary obstacle to any ceasefire agreement is the fact that Netanyahu is not interested in ending this war. He's made it clear repeatedly that the only ceasefire agreement that Netanyahu is interested in is a temporary one that leads to the release of all hostages, only for him to go back and continue this genocidal war in Gaza with the aim of defeating Hamas militarily, which is a delusional aim to begin with. And so we are stuck in this cycle in which this onslaught in Gaza continues on indefinitely, simply because Netanyahu does not see a path to victory and yet doesn't see the political advantage to stopping. So he's happy to continue as long as Palestinians are the ones who are dying, because it fits into his broader wish for, in his words, quote, thinning out the population in Gaza to a minimum. That is effectively what he's actually carrying out. And it's not clear to me at this point that there is any reason for optimism about a change in Israeli posture at this moment.
Right, but here's the thing. I'm not sure if you've seen this report, but it was in the New York Times earlier this week saying that the Israeli military officials are pushing for an end to the war in Gaza, even if it keeps Hamas in power for the time being, believing that it's the only chance to get the hostages back and to de-escalate with Hezbollah in Lebanon. Do you think that this rift between the military and Netanyahu will impact the trajectory of the war? I mean, I should also add that Netanyahu pushed back on this report, saying he didn't know who the sources were, but that this will not happen, according to him.
Yeah, no, this is a very, very serious division between military leaders who are looking at the situation objectively and just realizing that they are stuck between a rock and a hard place, and that there is no path to a better future for Israel out of this entire mess, and that it is time to simply end this war. And the sheer political pressure on Netanyahu and his extremist coalition that have absolutely no interest in doing that. That is a real pressure. And the party that could really shift the balance between these parties is the United States. The U.S. has enormous leverage over Israel, gives Israel billions of dollars in weapons, protects Israel diplomatically. And if the U.S. really brought down its weight on Netanyahu to stop this war, they are capable of doing it. Unfortunately, it seems like the Biden administration lacks the backbone to really put its money where its mouth is, that even though they're grumbling about the fact that they're tired of this war and want to see it come to an end, they have not stopped the endless supply of weapons to Israel. And they have not stopped the gaslighting, where Netanyahu openly says that he will not agree to any kind of agreement that ends the war permanently. And yet the U.S. administration comes out and blames Hamas for the failure of peace talks. As long as the U.S. is participating in this charade, it's difficult to imagine how Netanyahu is going to ultimately come under enough pressure to really fold in the situation. And he seems to just continue on this current track, uninhibited.
Look, but domestically, I mean, a ceasefire deal in Gaza, would that be seen as an accomplishment for Biden at this point, who's really battling his own political issues in the U.S.?
It would be an achievement, but admittedly a small one for two reasons. One, simply having allowed this massacre to continue for 9 months. It's difficult to undo the damage by finally reaching a ceasefire after 40,000 Palestinians had been slaughtered. And the other aspect of it is that indeed he is facing, a lot of challenges beyond just this particular issue about his mental competence to continue being president and to run for this re-election. In the light of all that, it is not clear how significant a victory it would be for him to achieve that ceasefire. But I certainly don't want to play it down too much either. It would be a step in the right direction. It is a huge source of frustration among young people, among voters of color, among critical voters in states like Michigan that has a very significant Arab American community, and other key states that are critical for Biden actually potentially winning this upcoming election and remaining president for another term. Those depend on a lot of young voters and voters of color and different marginalized communities basically being able to stomach the idea of voting for Biden. A lot of them dislike Trump a lot more, but that might not be enough to turn them out to the polls unless Biden achieves this ceasefire that he's been talking about and promising for a very, very long time, and yet has yet to actually take meaningful action to make sure that it happens.
All right, Omar Baddar, thank you so much for speaking to us from Washington, D.C.
Thank you.